All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Our last meeting was 3 weeks ago on August 5th. We had new business, Starkdale Farm. We talked about that for quite some time, as you can see in the minutes. And then we had our meeting adjourned. There's nothing else to discuss.
It's always Starkdale.
All right, need a motion to accept, what? I need a motion to accept the minutes. Motion made by Member Palmer, second by Member LaRobediere. Discussion. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. That motion passes 5-0 with 2 absences. Okay. All right. All right. So next we're going to have public hearing on Sherman Hill Road, 2-family. We'll have the applicant come and present before we continue the public hearing.
Hello again, everyone. Good to see you all again. Peter Sander, representing the applicants for the Sherman Hill multifamily development. Just to give everyone a brief rundown of what is being proposed is we have 4 existing lots that were created with a flexible subdivision. The lots are located in the residential district, RU. On each of the lots is 2 family buildings, so two buildings per lot. Total combined is 16 dwelling units, so it would be 4 dwelling units per lot. As part of our application, we actually increased the number of bedrooms from 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom to give the applicant flexibility in renting those out. Ultimately, if every building is completed with bedrooms, it would be 32 bedrooms total. So to recap some of the changes in our current submission, one of the biggest changes were the efforts that we made to make sure that the buildings themselves are emergency vehicle accessible. So that includes several improvements made to the existing subdivision lot, the common drive, as well as the reconfiguration of the proposed gravel parking lots. As you can see, or maybe not you can see, but essentially what we did is we softened the radius of these parking lots so that an emergency vehicle could quickly swing in, and then leaving the center, because as you know, we had ours laid out horizontally earlier. With leaving the center free, that allows the vehicle to pull up and immediately gain access to both buildings. Also included as part of that improvements for the emergency service vehicles were the entrance improvements, which include widening of the existing entrance so that emergency vehicles have an easier time turning in. We also have a small area where the applicants are committed to clearing a small portion so that vegetation doesn't extend out towards the road, blocking views coming down, I guess it would be north down Sherman Hill.
Where's a good? Which one?
Oh, that's on the details page, very end.
Right there.
Yep, there it is. And we're also including a stop bar, which will be a visual cue for people leaving the subdivision to stop on the line to make sure they have an opportunity to look both ways and make sure it's secure for them to go. And then one of the other major revisions that we made was changing the erosion control plan so that it would be phased, so that because each lot could be technically built out by either of the applicants at any point, we wanted to make sure that erosion is contained as they start to build out these lots. I think it's 4, sheet 4. Yeah, here it is. So if you mind zooming out a little bit. Yeah, so as you can see in our erosion control plan, we now have all these measures to be implemented at the time of each lot's development. So that would allow the applicants to, okay, we're going to pull 2 building permits for lot 14, but we're not going to pull building permits for 15, 16, 17. It allows them to open it and close it out in a proper manner on that. So other than that, that pretty much addresses all our major changes on this, and I'm happy to answer any of the board or public comments.
All right. So, I mean, one change, certainly going from 1 bedroom to 2 bedroom. What brought about that change?
Just availability. If you want, yeah.
So going through the process, we wanted to retain the existing septic as it was designed. So we were more in the schematic design phase until we got kind of to this point where it was feasible. And that's when we switched to like DD drawings and employed them to engineer like, all right, given the information we have, the space available, what can we do without over impacting our application? So
Yeah, and what we're actually using is the old system, I believe, was used a gravel system. We use a gravelless absorption system for the septic fields. So we were able to get the actual footprint of the septic system to be similar to maybe a little bit bigger. So ultimately, same disturbance. It's the same amount of work. It's just a slightly larger system to accommodate the additional bedrooms.
Okay. And so when you say additional bedrooms, you mean there won't be a study, there'll be a bedroom?
basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So someone will need to obviously update that to not say study and say,
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, no, we saw that in the comments. Yeah.
okay. See if any members have any questions at this time. Then we'll go to the consultants, then we'll go to the public. Member Palmer?
Nothing.
Member Robadier? Okay. Stewart? Okay. All right. Planner Werner?
Sure. I'll start, and I think I'll just focus on what's outstanding or new in the memo, because it does, carry over several months of meetings. So if we go to comments 1 and 2, that deals with the DOH and the water and the septic. So there was a June 18th letter from DOH that was received as part of the circulation responses, indicating, what we already know, those existing approvals have expired. They've asked for plans to review and approve, and for those septic systems to be out of the floodplain. They did move those. Now every lot has a septic system that's outside of the floodplain line. What's not clear to me, and I guess we can just discuss this, is are you planning to get health department approval before the board can act on this, or is that something that you're expected to be a condition of
We
approval?
were expecting this as a condition of approval, just same as prior projects.
Because right now, it's not really clear what, some of these have, it sounds like they all need to be sized for 8 bedrooms. Right now, they're not. So that's the plan.
They are.
Currently, they're sized for 8,
Yeah,
each one.
in the grading plan, they've all been sized for 8 bedrooms, each system.
Okay.
So again, everything you see there is not going to change unless there are minor comments from the DCDOH.
Okay.
And again, just so everyone's clear, it's 2 bedrooms per unit, there's 2 units per building, 2 buildings per lot.
Correct.
2
8
times 2
bedrooms
times
per
2 is
lot.
8 bedrooms per lot, yep.
Okay?
Okay, well, I'll defer to Joe for anything else on that topic, but let's move on to comment 5. Just talks about the erosion sediment control plans. That was brought up in the applicant's opening presentation. They've come up with like a phased approach for the erosion sediment control plan. Again, we've discussed that with them. We had meetings. Joe and I and Victoria did meet with the applicant to discuss this. Ultimately, the adequacy and the overall approach would be subject to. I would defer to Joe, but I'm sure you can talk through that a little bit more. Right now you have the gravel parking lots counting as impervious. on your calculations currently?
Correct.
Okay. When we talked about at the last meeting, when there was a public hearing and the fire department expressed concerns about access and getting between the buildings, it sounds like in response to that, you're taking away curb so that they can go through the buildings, between buildings through the gravel lot. Is there going to be any other curbs proposed, or is that just straight, it's just going to be gravel?
Yeah, as far as
Throughout.
curbing's proposed, the only curb we would be doing is this between the sidewalk and the gravel lot to hold that edge and to keep the parking spaces.
Okay. And are you concerned at all about, leaving no curb between the buildings there, having any kind of, runoff or just gravel making its way to the grass?
That kind
I
of,
don't know, I mean, if you're already counting it as impervious, I'm just wondering why it's not. I mean, from the beginning, you've been talking about gravel, but why not pave
I
it?
mean, in plowing, the gravel's going to end up on the grass
That
anyway.
too.
yeah, it kind of falls under us on the
Right.
maintenance, really.
Sure.
Cost-cutting measure at this point, it's a large project, got a lot going on in the town, so. We don't want to commit to something,
Well,
And just on that, the parking stall detail on the last page, there's not going to be actual lines because it's gravel.
yeah, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Will you have some kind of bumpers just to indicate this is a space and this is a space, not wherever
Well, if we
the
do
heck you
sidewalk
want?
there, you'll have a slight curb where they're pulling up to, that can be designated with a line.
I guess you could have lines on the
Not on the
sidewalk, like,
curb.
at the edge of the sidewalk.
Exactly.
Or something,
Designating parking spots.
right?
And the lines don't usually work, you can have to do bumpers, I think. The lines go away within a year.
On the, I think you're
On
saying
the
on the, like, not like across the sidewalk.
No,
I mean,
on
like
the sidewalk.
Yeah, on the actual
face.
curb of the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
when-
Yeah, like the
Yeah,
part
yeah.
that faces
When
the
you
car.
paint on the face of those sidewalks, they don't last very long, and then you end up migrating. So if you don't have a paved surface with striping,
Right.
the
have
typical
a
protocol is to use bumpers
Yeah,
to designate the spots.
right. And I guess also the bumpers would prevent people, I mean, I guess it depends on how high your sidewalk is, prevent people from just running the front of their car or back of their car right up onto the sidewalk.
That's another reason, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so, all right,
I mean, it's something the
Mayor Warner,
board
please.
can have requests they look into further. Obviously, it's also something they can do down the line if this maintenance is
Yeah.
becoming too costly, in replacing gravel, and they can pave it, but, it's worth talking about, so just mentioning that. Moving on down to comment 10. We had identified an issue with the setback on lot 15, mainly because that's a flag lot. Per the code, you have to measure setbacks from the edge of the roadway rather than the center line, so they did address that. They moved the buildings back on lot 15, so shouldn't be any issues anymore there. On 11,
1 second.
Yep.
All right, yeah, just so for everybody, this is lot 15. And so these buildings were closer to the,
they were
Yeah,
closer.
if you have if you go to the site plan, I can show you where the setback line is.
site plan.
Yeah.
That was the site plan set.
The actual site plan drawing.
Which document?
Yeah, open the site plan set, please.
Okay,
Yeah. And it's,
that is the site plan.
if
set.
you go up to the site plan, which is sheet 1, yeah, here it is.
G2?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So here, you'll see here, this was the setback earlier, so the building was pulled closer to this
Right.
curve right here, based off the setback, so we adjusted the setback, which required us to move the building slightly further east, north? One of those.
No,
Back.
North.
East.
Northeast.
east.
Yeah,
North is
yes.
East.
to the
yeah.
left.
Deeper in the property.
Yeah,
There's no
deep,
line.
Sure.
deeper in the property, yes.
And you were able to put the septic farther off to the side,
Yep.
but not in the floodplain, okay.
Okay.
And again, so, right, I mean, you don't have, I don't know, I think you gotta look at maybe bumpers or something, because you can't have lines on the gravel, but it looks like there'll be lines there.
Mm-hmm.
So, basically what you're putting that there to say that there's 5 spots
Yeah, we're trying to
per
show.
building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. 5 spots for, because it's 5 spots in each, okay, so really it's 2.5 spots per unit?
Yes.
Which I think,
Yeah, the requirement's 2, so
Two.
they're over that. They're over.
We increased it because of the fire department. It's just to make the parking lots bigger so that they can get their trucks in.
sure,
So,
okay.
Yeah, they were only required to have 32. I think 40 is proposed right now.
Okay, please continue.
Yep. So number 11, same comment that you had raised, Chairman, about the floor plans, just
Right.
maybe showing study being bedroom.
Yep.
They're not changing otherwise. Okay, number 13 talks about the density requirements for the previously approved flexible subdivision, how this fits in. We asked them to provide a little more backup on that, showing that it's in compliance. Basically, the 2003 approval had a maximum density of 45 units within a 20-lot subdivision. So out of the 45 available, there was one dwelling per lot approved, so a total of 20 was what was part of the approvals in 2003. To date, they're showing that there's been 9 units constructed on 9 lots. So right now, they're proposing 4 units each on lots 14 through 17, so 16 units total. And if these are permitted, the total approved unit count would increase from 20 to 36, so 16 more, which is still below 45, which was determined to be what the maximum allowed was in 2003. So I don't have any further comments on that. I think that's fine. They show that there's no additional, none of the 9 lots that are built under the old subdivision, the previously approved subdivision, have ADUs or additional units. They're all single units. So, and they showed Dutch's parcel access data for backing that up.
Right, and it doesn't preclude the 11 lots from building their unit or coming back and saying,
Right.
we want to build 2 on our property.
Correct. Okay, down to number 14, the new piece of that. So the parking is still required to be 32. They're proposing 40. They did make some changes in that they added some trees to about 4 per lot, which was in response to our comment about providing a little more screening just within the development for residents that live there. Maybe looking out, they don't want to just see parking. There can be some landscaping in there as well. It's not really an issue for off-site views. It's more about internal views from people living there. I think, right now they're proposing red maples, 4 of them per lot. That's what they proposed in response to that request. They're not adding any parking lot lighting. EV chargers were discussed, but they're not proposing any of that. Yeah, lighting is kind of, I just feel it's something that we should have for these parking areas. If there at least one light post, I think would be adequate. I mean, for safety reasons, especially if they're gravel. If they're uneven in any way, someone can, trip and fall. There's no, right now, there's just I think you're proposing like one light at the front door of each unit, so it gets pretty dark out there, so I'm wondering why there's not at least one
What about
light pole.
floodlights off the corner of the building lighting up the parking lot? I need to put a light post out there. It's gonna take on a more commercial look, and I know it's a medium development build-out we're doing here, but they are a little residential, and people kind of renting there are kind of not expecting light poles and stuff like that, Like it would be like in the middle of the town, like I have in the apartment buildings. That's kind of our feel with it. So as a compromise there, putting floodlights off the corner of the building, shining, just adding lights.
There's different ways to do it. I mean, it doesn't have to be a pole.
Lamp
You could do
post or-
bollard lighting. There's other ways to provide lighting out there. I mean, but floodlight sounds like their plan. But again, I'm raising it as something that we noticed.
I mean, I don't know. You could put some kind of lamp post there, or at the end of each sidewalk, or something just to delineate. I mean, especially if it's dark, just pulling in might be kind of tough. But
I don't think it. Yeah, I mean, commercial feel. You're thinking like 20-foot tall light poles. Like they don't have to be very, very tall to provide some safe lighting for folks walking around at night.
yeah, I mean,
Okay.
the flood
We'll come up with something
floodlight
nice.
could work. It's just,
Yeah.
I think, part of a point that I was just talking with somebody was making is that, these are rental units, presumably one renter may not know the other 3 renters that are there, and the potential safety concerns, so.
Really noted.
Okay, 16 was just about the septic systems are no longer encroaching into the floodplains. I was confused a little bit about the labeling, but if you're saying that they're all right now accurately labeled, that's fine. I just feel like there's some that are, might be sized differently
Yeah, may have
versus
been-
what's.
That may have just been a CAD drafting mistake, so I'll
Okay.
go through.
Double
and
check that, yeah. But obviously you still have to go through the health department and
Mm-hmm. Yep.
get that resolved, so. Okay, we'll move down to the SECRA referrals section, or comment 19 was just noting that, we did circulate this for SECRA purposes. We did include DEC because they own the land next door to this subdivision. To date, no response has been received from DEC. So the board can move forward, but, because it's been over 30 days, but, you know, if it's something that's important to hear from them on because of the fact that it's public land, you know, adjacent, that includes wetlands, includes the Swamp River, you know, they're just notoriously known for not responding on time, so. You know. Just calling it out that they didn't respond, so.
Okay. I would hope the DEC responds.
They might not. That's the same as 21. All right, so then that's it for the old comments. I have some new comments starting out at number 23, 24, 25, and 26. And this is mostly about what came about from the public hearing at the last meeting. So the applicant shared, if you can pull it up too, the inset map that shows the entrance improvements to address the sightline concerns, and I think it was sheet 5.
Yeah. Oh, top left.
Right.
Yep, so they're proposing some clearing of vegetation within the right-of-way, and also some drainage improvements within the right-of-way. I think this is a town road, so I think it would make sense to have the highway superintendent weigh in on this to make sure it's something that is agreeable.
I mean,
Again, this is the first time they're showing
The proposed
this.
stop line would be on the town property.
Is it? I don't think it is. Right now, they're showing it off
Well, the
of,
sign is on your property, right? But the stop line is
Right.
within the, is not on your property.
No.
You know, whether it's
the stop
town-
bar is outside of their property line, too.
Stop bar, yeah, I'm saying line.
Mhm.
Yes, the stop bar.
And that's proposed at like, what, how far off the edge of Sherman Hill right now?
5 feet.
That's, meets the standard according to our traffic folks.
Sure.
You know, but again, this is all within the right-of-way for the town road, so I think it's worth having the highway superintendent take a look at this between now and the next meeting. And it's something that, if it's agreeable, you know, clearing that vegetation, maintaining it at a level that maintains sight lines can be a condition of approval. One thing that it's not in the memo, but I would like to see if possible, and this is just because my traffic colleagues some of them were out last week. Didn't get a chance to speak to them about it, but if you can show us the backup of how you know, came up with the 10 feet, like just show that there's adequate sight distance, you know, per the AASHTO standards for the road being 35 miles an hour, what the standard is and what you're able to have with these improvements, looking each way.
Okay.
You know, the drawings that just back that up, be helpful to see.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing was, there was a comment raised by a neighbor about wanting to see some privacy fencing installed on the, if you can pull that up again, Chairman, sorry, the map.
Pull up the drawing again.
Yeah, the one you had up before.
Yeah,
So,
just
for
So,
vehicles turning,
Your,
yeah, only, I think it was to address vehicles that are turning into the private road that are coming from the north, making a left turn into the development.
east.
He was
Coming from this
coming from the
direction, going
north,
that way.
yeah, turning into
From the east.
the
to
east,
south.
sorry.
Yeah.
Turning into the development off Sherman Hill. Lights shining into their house was a concern when there's no vegetation, when the leaves are off the trees. And he asked if there was possibility to put a privacy fence up to address that, and it doesn't look like that was responded to, so I just wanted to bring it up.
So we investigated that to see the feasibility of that. If you look, it's almost a 10-foot elevation change right at the corner. So unless we're driving a monster truck, lights can't even crest his lawn.
Yeah, so just
You know, it's-
we just felt like it was unnecessary, just be given the change in topography and the existing vegetation,
These topo lines are
2 feet.
2 feet? Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
it jumps up significantly, right, even right there at the
Yeah,
corner.
I see what you're saying.
You know, so,
All right. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't in your package of responses. I thought I'd just ask if you can address it tonight, so thank you. You talked about the adjustments you made to address the fire department's comments, curb radii, you know, having no curb between buildings. That's just noted here, number 24. There's also an easement that are you proposing a new easement for the turn at lot 14?
The idea, I think we were gonna try to tack on that easement to the existing.
Okay.
Victoria's shaking her head like, no.
So,
There, you can't tack it on because it was a map note. You
Okay,
need an actual easement.
okay, well, that's fine then.
Yeah.
so it's a common driveway easement that's existing, and you're looking to supplement it by including this extra area of pavement.
But again, what's already there is this little corner, and then, again, for emergency vehicle purposes, was to add on more.
Yeah, we wanted a
Asphalt.
smoother turn so the emergency vehicles could easily turn that without having any issues. And we're already going over as existing pavement is, so we figured, let's just smooth it out, put an easement on it.
So you would want to see a new, like just a new easement for this particular item?
Yeah.
Okay.
we were waiting to formally draft it to make sure.
It can be a
This one.
condition of approval. I
Yeah.
mean, once you have a final design.
Sure,
Yeah.
yep.
I don't need to see it right now.
Okay, so the hash lines, I guess I'll call them, is like this area of the proposed easement? Okay. Okay.
Okay, and then number 25 is just summarizing the Dutchess County planning comments that came in that we talked a little bit about last time. The applicant did respond to each one of those in their letter. There's currently, they're meeting the parking requirements. Lighting was brought up, something that they should consider, and I agree. The septic fields are moved out of the floodplain, and the other issue lastly was that the county asked about making sure that future residents aren't going to be trying to get to the DEC land or down to the river through making their own trails. And it sounded like you were amenable to putting up signage or something that says this is private property, like to get to the fishing access, you have to exit and go over to Old Route 22, and there's a designated pull-off for that. Doesn't have to say all that, but something that shows that it's private property, no trespassing, something like that.
Yep.
Or no making, your own trails down, something to that effect. And again, that can be a condition of approval, such signage.
And part of that could just be, and I have a added bonus of just being basically a riparian buffer of just keeping the vegetation taller
Yeah,
and,
that was always the plan.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
Making it tough to actually do something through there. And you'll also have, if these are rentals, you'll have a lease that'll you can also include it in that as an issue, stipulation for rules of the development. And then the last comment was just the Part 1 EAF narrative should just be updated to reflect the latest, you're switching back to 2-bedroom, and any other things that might have just needed to be updated in that narrative. So that's the extent of my comments. The recommendation was to open the hearing. If it's possible to close it, you can close it. We could talk about next steps, referring to the highway super for the issue at the entrance. That's all I had.
Okay. Thank you, Planner Werner. Engineer Berger?
On the phasing, since you're going to be doing some improvements at the entrance, we should probably clarify when that will be done. Well, it probably should be done you're not saying which one of your 4 phases are going to be done, that's up to you, but include it in your first phase of whatever it is, the improvements to the entrance as well as that turn on lot 14 should be included in that first phase. That way it doesn't get pushed to the end or not done at all because COs are granted. So that would be good. On the septic, I know you're going to health department, they're 880 gallons each. Are any of them required to be pumped, or are you able to split the systems?
I'm not sure. What do you mean by bumped?
Well, over 500 feet needs to be pumped.
Oh.
So unless you split the system into two 440-gallon systems, making it 80, and you keep it under the 500-gallon limit. It's not really necessary other than showing the pump stations that you would need if you are going to pump it.
Gotcha. I'll have to
So-
look in that with the septic engineer designing
Yeah,
it.
so if it's not, that's fine. That's just shown on the plans that it's a split system. If it's not and you're planning on pumping, again, it's a health department approval, but the town should see location pump stations if you're planning on using them. Those are the smaller pump stations that individual septics have, because that would require a control panel and venting and things that should be on the plan, but whatever you're planning. Third is the stormwater. I seen you, the erosion control looks good, but there's no issuance of the stormwater plan or what you may be doing for stormwater.
Yeah. So just I wanted to comment on that. So we wanted to just get initial feedback. Well, we have the SWIP prepared and we have stormwater practices sized appropriately, but I didn't want to go through and assign rim elevations until I knew that everything was set, and so to make sure the conveyance of that works.
I think we'll need that before seeker's done.
Okay.
So in case it changes the plan, it shouldn't.
It really shouldn't at
Well,
this
since you've
point,
done a
but-
preliminary design,
Yeah.
at least that level of, you don't have to do the final design of the SWIPs, but the practices could be shown to show that they're integral to the system before seeker. Moving
Okay.
forward would be my recommendation to the board. And that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Thank you. Attorney Polidoro?
Yes, I have two comments. One is on the phasing. Would you mind going back to the erosion and sediment
back
phasing
to which
plan?
one? Which?
The erosion and sediment control phasing plan, I think it was sheet
four.
4.
That was
That's
it.
it, that was it, you just went by it. So,
I'm
I
zooming.
guess we had some discussions about how to build out this project, and I just want to be clear that you're phasing the erosion and sediment control, but you haven't appeared to phase the site plan. And so I don't know if you can get the individual COs until it's all built, unless you intended each of those phases to also be site plan phases. Just think through that.
I mean, wouldn't this be the same as a phased construction of an overall site plan? I don't know why we would need 2 or 4 separate site plan approvals for it, considering it is going to be constructed in phases as shown on the original site plan.
I think the thing is, instead of calling those erosion control phasing, it's erosion control and site plan changes.
Okay.
Phases.
You haven't shown any phases to your site plan, that's the point. These need to be,
It's verbiage.
Okay,
Those are also your site plan change phases.
gotcha. So really it would just be naming it so it says site plan, or is there anything particular you want me to do to make it more clear?
well, you're also going to have to address Joe's comment about when the road improvement is going to be made and when the entry improvements are going to be made, but
Yeah,
other than that.
I think I have it noted on there, intersection improvements to be completed with initial, right under the
Right,
total
but also the
disturbance.
curve on 14.
That's what you're,
Right.
Yep.
What's the name of this sheet on the site plan set on the bottom right? Do you have it?
It is.
Phased erosion and
Construction.
sediment.
sediment control
Yeah.
plan, sheet 4 or 5.
Erosion sediment control and site plan,
And site plan?
because it's also site plan.
Okay. Should I include a planning board approval block on that as well, if that's being signed separately as a site plan, in addition to? Or does the overall cover
It's-
sheet?
It's the cover sheet, covers it.
Okay,
Yeah.
I said the second covers it. You're gonna want that for health department as well, because the health department's gonna look at the site plan phasing to give you the different forms needed to get each building permit. So even though you're solving the erosion control phasing, you still have the problem with the town CO and with the health department with their SAN 34s. They're
gotcha.
gonna want a phased, because you're not going in for 4 septic approvals at once. You're going in per building permit. And they're gonna
Understood.
then look at, well, how can you go for 1 if you only have a site plan for 4?
I understand. Okay,
So we were only addressing erosion control with that, but it really falls into site
yeah,
plan
the
as well.
closing, okay.
Not just us, but health department.
Okay, that's easy enough. Perfect.
And then, Chairman, if you can go to, I think it's page 5 with the driveway entrance or the private road entrance detail. Yeah, over. I think we need to refer to the highway super. I agree with Mr. Warner. And I would like to know if the highway super, maybe we should ask him questions, is going to want an easement over the portion of that clearing area so that he can go in and clear it if it's not being properly maintained.
I mean, sure, yeah, I don't know, the highway superintendent doesn't typically, the highway department doesn't typically clear vegetation on private land.
Right, but,
You're saying which vegetation?
so see the hatched areas? Where if
Like
it's needed
this?
for site distance, well,
Right.
that's the right-of-way, but see how it goes further?
Here.
They're showing that they need that in order to achieve the required site distance.
We could trim that back. It's not really required because that part really doesn't interfere too much.
I think you should identify a difference. Clearing needed for site distance and additional clearing.
Okay.
Because when highway superintendent goes out to sign off, he's going to look at what was required for site distance.
Understood.
I think you need to identify those two different,
Right, and I guess providing the underlying drawings that were requested would help with that, so we could check.
Okay.
the sight lines.
Yeah,
the sight
okay.
lines.
Anything further? All
That's it.
right, having heard from our consultants, members of the planning board, any further questions, comments at this time? Nope. Just had one thing, just looking at this lot 17 here. So, Engineer Berger, just the grade of the property goes downward in this direction.
Okay, okay.
Topo lines, right?
Yes.
So just water runoff from here and water runoff from these roofs and the septic field being in such proximity to the buildings, is that a potential problem in the future?
Yeah, well, and I imagine that what the health department will request is a diversion swale between the building and the system.
Okay.
When they go to the, oh, is that a fill pad, Peter?
Yes.
So typically, it being a fill pad, if they can gravity it, they're okay. They're going to still have to put a gentle swale in between to divert. The health department's going to want
Like a
that.
swell, like along here? Is
Yeah,
that-
probably start in the middle and go either north and south, so the water is directed around it.
Okay,
So it'll be a split swale,
gotcha.
but it'll only be like 6 to 12 inches deep. It won't be a huge swale, just enough to direct the water around.
Maybe you just want to
Yep.
put that down anyway. It was just one of those things, just kind of looking at it and just
No, that makes sense.
the gravel being impervious and obviously roofs are impervious. And
Absolutely. And that's typically the health department will weigh in on that. And so we leave that to them. Even the ones there, you would still have a swale because you got water. Oh, no, is that going down too? I think it is still going down, right, Peter?
Which one? Yeah, this is going
Down too.
down.
So you're going to have that when you do all your system final design. It's typically built in when you do your fill anyway, but you'll have a detail showing a slight diversion around that. Probably going in both directions, so it's not one deep.
Yep.
If you
yeah, I
start-
guess when I was looking at it, I thought, okay, the water's pretty much going to go like probably more that way. So it just seemed like lot 17 was kind of the worst. of the-
And part of our stormwater management practice is collecting roof runoff and collecting that and getting that infiltrated, so.
And that will
Oh,
be,
okay.
that will be shown on the stormwater plan we haven't seen yet.
Yeah.
That's a good observation. It's good to bring it out now, so you.
Yeah,
Yeah, just so you guys know that we're not,
Yeah.
right.
we're thinking about it. It's
Okay.
just wanted to make sure
It's
we're
good
good
to
on the
know.
layout.
All right. When do you think we'd see the stormwater?
Next submission.
All right. That was everything I had. Okay, so is there anything else you want to add before we continue the public hearing? Okay. I get the clipboard, Planner Warner.
I don't think there's anybody there.
I don't know if anybody signed up. but- Okay. All right, yeah, if you'd like to still sign up for the LWF LLC one, that's clipboard's there. So no one signed up. All right, so thank you. Please have a seat. So this is a continued public hearing, I'm correct? Yes, okay. So motion to continue the public hearing for Sherman Hill Road two-family. Motion made by...
Can Do you mind if I just interrupt?
I mean, I
we
gave
have
you
no
the opportunity
public.
a minute ago, so sure.
We just have no public comment, so I was wondering if it would be possible to close the public hearing tonight.
Well, that's what we're about to find out.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. So, motion to continue the public hearing for Sherman Hill Road two-family. Motion made by
So moved.
Member Sador, seconded by, well, I have to continue the public hearing first before anyone can talk.
Second.
Seconded by Member Palmer. All those in favor of continuing the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Okay, this public hearing is now continued. Any members of the public wishing to speak at this public hearing, please come to the podium at this time and state your name.
So, quick question.
Please come to the podium and state your name.
Name's Keith Black, live on Sherman Hill.
Okay.
From the way it looks, is this going to be low-income housing?
Your name, please?
Keith Black.
Keith Black. Okay. So is this going to be low-income housing? I imagine they're going to charge what they can get for rent. So they've stated it'll be rental property.
Because we have a nice little community, got 10 little houses there, we all take care of each other. All the houses start at $500,000 on up. And now the way that this thing looks like this monstrosity is going to be, Sherman Hill Road can't handle the traffic. That road's a speedway. Plus, if it's low income, who knows what's going to be dragging in there?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Lack. All right, any other members of the public wishing to speak at this public hearing? Please come to the podium at this time. Okay, seeing no one approaching the podium, members of the planning board, we can continue this public hearing, we can close this public hearing, we can close it with written comments to a certain date. Any thoughts?
I would think to close it.
Think to close it?
Second.
Close it? Okay. All right. Written comments to a certain date or close it?
Close it.
Close it? Close it. Okay. All right. So a motion to close this public hearing made by Member Roman, seconded by Member Palmer. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of closing the public hearing say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. All right, that motion passes 5-0 with 2 absences. This public hearing is now closed. Okay, so then next steps, they have to submit the stormwater management plan.
Yeah, you could make the referral to the highway superintendent
To the
to
highway
get comments on the entrance. They can respond to the memo and any other, what I raised tonight about the site distance backup. Yeah, for the,
Do we want to do a formal motion to refer to the highway?
Yeah, we'll do that. So just, okay, so the next deadline is September, I'm sorry, the next deadline is August 28th, 2 days from now, for September 16th. So in all likelihood, we're going to be seeing stuff by September 18th or on September 18th for October 7th. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, motion to forward this application to the Town of Dover Highway Superintendent, seconded by
Second.
Member Sador. Discussion? Motion to forward to, for his comments, obviously. Seconded by Member Sador. Discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed say no. Okay, that motion passes 5-0 with 2 absences. All right, anything else regarding Sherman
Just the fire department. I know that you
family this evening?
addressed their concerns, but did you meet with them?
In the parking lot after the last meeting.
Yeah.
That's where we came up with all this.
Okay.
this-
Great ideas.
Yeah. They were done and our meeting kept going for a bit.
Told us-
Not the last meeting, the one meeting before that.
Yeah.
It was not the last meeting, it was the meeting before that.
I mean, it would be great if you could get us something from the fire department, just saying that you addressed their concerns before
We'll
the
do our
next
best.
meeting.
yeah, I don't think the comments that they made at the hearing were just spoken at the podium. They didn't submit anything in writing, I don't think, right?
No, they
No.
were submit a written
Yeah.
response.
So if there's a chance to get something in writing from them now that acknowledges that that what you've done is acceptable, that would be good.
Anything further? All right, thank you.
All right. Very cool. Thanks,
All right.
everyone.
Thank you. Next, we'll have a public hearing for LWF LLC Incorporated Farm Pond. First, we'll have the applicant discuss, and members can ask questions, then the applicants, then consultants, rather. You can sit. You're going to have the light in your eyes, but... Okay.
Okay. Good evening. I'm Donald Capolino of Capolino Rothschild Deegan Attorneys for LWF. And
That's not the right thing.
we met last time with the preliminary submission. We you know, just for the public, if there's anyone from the public, no one's signed up yet, but if, for a quick review, this was approved originally in May 17th of 2021 for a pond on the LWF property for their whitetail and red deer?
Yes, sir.
And red deer. And the pond, as originally designed, was was supposed to be a 1.75 acre surface pond. Because the depth to the water table was lower than expected, the pond that could be built with appropriate slopes for the safety of the deer and the safety of the farm machinery came out to be 1.29 acres. We gave it 2 years to try to, because ultimately the permit was approved and extended on March 21st, 2022, and ultimately, yeah, I
Sorry,
guess, I guess
I think the problem is you built the pond upside down.
we did.
That's why I didn't want.
We defy gravity, but the whole purpose of that was to just show that as the water table gets lower, then the pond surface then decreases. We gave it 2 years, and we up until this year to try to get the pond to see if it would recharge, see if the water table would come up, but it has not appreciably. It's a very, very small fraction. It's still 1.29 acres. So, and this is important. I have Kyle Hetman here, who is the farm manager now, and you know, he could speak to any of the questions you have about the farm and how it's operating. But we've now come in and asked for the expansion of the disturbed area in order to create the pond as originally designed. We have to expand the disturbed area in order to provide for appropriate slopes to do that. And that's essentially what this project is about and what this application is about. It's really not expanding the pond, but just expanding the disturbed area, and because the water table wasn't as high as expected, and we did the testing
Right.
from nearby. So.
Okay, so am I correct? This is the property we're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, and just the pond's too recent for this image, I guess, and on Google Maps is just,
Right there. Yeah,
so there is a
Yes, sir.
pond.
Yeah,
Okay.
there is a pond there now.
All right. Okay. And Engineer Berger, you've went out and inspected the pond, I know when it was.
It's built very nice.
It's a nice pond.
Yes, it is.
Okay. All right, and so basically you're just really coming back to ask us to approve the pond that we were originally discussed, and then you went with a smaller pond because you thought it might work and it didn't, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're just
All right. Okay. Is there anything else you wanted to?
No.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. Any members of the board have any questions, comments?
Nope.
Nobody here? No? All right. Engineer Berger, we
I looked
start with
at,
you. Please continue.
I looked at the plans. They're pretty straightforward, how to construct excavation down to the water, erosion controls proper. The last time they worked on it, they did a fantastic job. I've reviewed the bond that we used last time. It's good enough for this time, so I've keeping with the same number. Again, because it's a pretty simple construction, and hopefully you'll be able to get your pond surface bigger with this additional construction, but I have no comments other than what they presented was fine.
Okay, all right. Planner Winter?
Yeah, I didn't submit any written comments. The only thing I would reiterate was what I said last time they were here, which was, they, in their application, they included some correspondence with DEC, which they did on their own to get the non-jurisdictional determination letter. And within that, there was a note that they did prepare timber rattlesnake encounter plans as part of construction. Those are acceptable to DEC, and I think my recommendation would be to have the resolution that's in front of you tonight, have that as a condition, just that they implement that plan as approved by DEC in the June letter that they submitted. And I think that's in the draft
Okay.
Yeah, to
resolution.
be clear on that point, what happened simply was, when we came here last time, we were here for the permit, we still had the DEC, we had submitted, but they hadn't finished their review.
Really?
And
Huh.
during the
Okay.
review, they sent it on to Wildlife. Wildlife said, can you give us the, something to take care of the potential for the protected timber rattlers? And so we did,
Right.
and they approved it then. This application now, they have already approved, before we came here, they've already approved this. They moved much more quickly this time, maybe because it's post-COVID, but
Yeah.
but we were.
I think it's something you've had in place already. We just didn't have it in the original approval, so I just
Right.
feel it's appropriate to have it now. So,
So it moved much
that's all.
more quickly, and they had been through there. So that's it.
Great. Okay. Attorney Polidoro?
No comments.
Okay. Having heard from our consultants, any members of the planning board have any questions, comments? Okay. All right, so we're going to open the public hearing. Please have a seat. Thank you. We're going to open the public hearing, so please have a seat. All right, motion to open a public hearing for LWF LLC Incorporated Farm Pond. Motion made by Member Palmer.
Second.
By Member Sador. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of opening the public hearing, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, say no. Okay, this public hearing is now open by vote of 5-0 with 2 absences. Any members of the public wishing to speak regarding LWF LLC Incorporated Farm Pond, please come to the podium at this time. Okay. Seeing no one approaching the podium, I'll entertain a motion to close this public hearing. Motion made by Member Lorberdier, seconded by Member Roman. Discussion? Seeing no discussion, all those in favor of closing this public hearing, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. This public hearing is now closed. Vote of 5-0 with 2 absences. All right. Okay. So.
That looks like last month's resolution.
That's from, right. Is it, that one dated today.
I mean, it's printed if you want it.
Let me see.
Oh, this isn't, Marilyn, this isn't the most recent one,
Okay, I
but,
think this is it.
well, it was updated since then.
That one's right. August 26th.
Right, but there was, an update. I'll make it on my, I'll read it aloud when you get there. It's about the,
Which, is it a whereas? Is it
it's the final be it further resolved, the second to last. It says, as a continuing condition of the erosion and sediment control permit, the applicant shall implement the timber rattlesnake take avoidance measures referenced in correspondence from the Department of Environmental Conservation dated June 6, 2024. Oh,
It's there.
it's there. Okay, it's not on the printed one.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, we're good. Thanks.
All right. Okay, resolution granting erosion and sediment control permit approval. for erosion sediment control permit for farm pond expansion. The property address is not Route 22.